What's up, everyone? We're so excited to kick off Living in Rockland Live again. We've been absent MIA for a while, and we kind of had a lazy summer, and we're ready to kick it back off. And who better to do it with Walter, the most versatile guy I've heard of. Super interesting guy. Excited to have him on. Let's go. Kick us off.
All right. So, Walter, tell us a little bit about yourself, and so we could get into the questions and really dig in.
So I'm a comic in North Jersey, Rockland area. Been do a lot of stuff in the tri-state area. A lot of local shows. I help produce shows over at Diddy's over in Suffern. We've done shows at the Spot's gone, but it used to be a billiards hall in Nanuet called the Spot. Very big place, and we used to do comedy shows in the upstairs room of it. And I also help at least try to promote a little bit of the show up at Levity that they have in the side room called Mic'd Up, and it's run by Dave Sazik. Brilliant dude, very funny comic. He's been doing stand-up for 15, 20 years. So, and he gets people in that room that you typically wouldn't get just at like your regular side room show. So, and he gets kind of starter comics in there, and then he gets kind of people in the mid area of their career, and then he gets people who are kind of at that next step up, like that. They're going to take that next leap, and like in 3 years from now, you won't be able to book them for a 50 person room show. So a couple weeks ago, I was on a show with him and Carla Okerson and Mike Keegan. Those are people who are featuring right now at bigger comedy clubs. And probably in the next few years, you will probably hear their names more and more and more. And they will probably take steps forward. And you're like, oh my God, this person is a special. I had an opportunity to see them in a side room up at Levity. So
take us back a little bit. You said that you are a stand-up comedian along with, you do some producing, and we'll talk about that he's an attorney too. But take us back the first time. I know you said you're in for 5 years. What made you go into comedy, and, bring us back to the first day where you told your first joke?
Well, first joke I probably told like when I was in 8th grade or something. It was probably something like really young and really stupid and probably not allowed on most censors. So, but I'll say I 5 years ago, I started mainly because I felt like there was like a gaping hole in my heart. There was something that I wasn't chasing, and you're like, and I was in a really bad place. And once I started doing this, I found like a little bit of light, and it kept going, and I kept on doing it, and I got better, and I learned new skills in it from doing it. In the stand-up world, whether it's doing crowd work, whether it's kind of improvising on the spot, whether it's getting what you think off stage onto the stage, which that's one of the things that you don't realize early on takes some time, is that you need that balance of knowing what your voice is when you're on stage, what to take, what you are writing off stage, like some of the jokes that you might develop off stage and how to bring them onto the stage. Because it is a lot. Like you might be trying to remember stuff. You might not be good at reading notes. Like I'm not good at having like a full note. And like I've seen people go up on stage for an open mic and they'll have a notebook there and they could go bounce right from that and go right to their face. I couldn't do that. For a while, I tried writing notes on my hand, and sometimes that would help, and sometimes I'd look like a psychopath.
Yeah.
So
that's so funny. Now, where'd you do your first stand-up?
It was in Suffern at a spot over that was like in a small like theater that was over there. It used to be in a different spot, but now it's called Rhino. And they would do like an open mic night, and that was probably the first one of the last 5 years. That was the first kind of crux of that. And then like I had done like 1 or 2 spots before. Like I've done 1 or 2 like attempts at it before, usually like in classes. In fact, I would probably say the most recent time before starting doing stand-up where I did stand-up was probably in law school, where I got punished by one of the professors for screwing up. And he's like, you're going to have to go ahead and do a presentation. And I spent the whole time being a dork and kind of just joking about how you have to update the V drive and that there's no more excuses for not updating the V drive either, because now Walter's been in trouble for not updating the V drive. So it was just like it kind of developed out of that. And I was like, I always wanted to do it. I grew up watching Carlin and Robin Williams and a lot of different comics. And I was like, I really, it was something that was speaking to me as part of the same thing. I wanted to be a filmmaker when I was younger. The 2 things I kind of really wanted when I was younger was I either want to be a filmmaker or a stand-up comedian. I didn't know how you became a stand-up comedian. With a filmmaking thing, I kind of knew at least I had a camera. And so I got into that for a bit. went to law school, kind of fell out of that. Like the closest I ever got into the film industry was my first day of law school. I got offered a job editing adult videos, which sounds good, but you're not editing adult videos you like. You're editing adult videos other people like. So I kind of learned, I was like, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go to law school instead, which might have been a mistake, but we'll see how that goes. The story's not done and written there.
Where did the lawyer come from? Like, that's like on a whole nother like side of where you're at. I feel like
it's just the most intricate backup plan ever. Like it was 2011. The jobs were hard to come across. I got a decent score on my LSAT. I was like, you know what? Like, let's go and I was like, I started applying to some places because, like I said, it was a weird time, and I was like, all right, well, if I'm ever gonna go, this seemed like the appropriate time to go. And I'll say this: I don't regret law school. I maybe regret things after law school as far as decisions on keeping on going. But like law school itself, if law school was free, I'd tell everybody to go do it. It's not, unfortunately, but it put me in a room with some of the smartest people I've ever been around in my life. You had to compete to be there. It was, I'll say, like, I really appreciated the people I got to be around from being in law school, going to Rutgers, being around people who were like, they were driven. There were people who were in law school who were like, they always wanted to be a lawyer. Like since they were 6 years old, wanted to be a lawyer. And I was like, oh, that's cool. I still haven't decided yet. And thus, but this is the, like I said, most intricate backup plan ever. Because like, again, I think there's a part of my heart that speaks to the creative, whether it's writing or filmmaking or stand-up. And the thing with stand-up was stand-up's all on you. And that kind of made it, maybe I'm a control freak. Maybe that's the issue, is like, you know what, man, like you got to calm down. But like the good thing with stand-up is it is all on you. It's all on, like, you write it, you go up there, you perform it. You know, if it doesn't deliver, you got to go back to the drawing board and figure out what happened, whether it was the audience or you or your performance or your writing. So
very cool. How have you seen like your worlds collide with comedy and being an attorney? Like, do you feel like they collide a little bit?
A little bit. First off, a lot of people asking for free advice. A lot of people. I don't even practice this area of law, but I'm gonna go. But people will ask me stuff like all the time, like, "What's your pay? How do you get an immigration visa or something?" Like, you'll get random questions, and I'm like, "Sir, this is a Denny's. Like, I don't." And also the problem is a lot of comics that I'm meeting, it's again, you're at open mics. Most of us don't have a lot of money, and including me. Like, I'm the most broke lawyer there's ever existed, so it doesn't help. So then I'm sitting there going like, I'm not a good selling point for lawyers to begin with. So people will sit there and be like, hey, like, how do you do this? And I'm like, you might want to see a good lawyer about this. But like, so I get a lot of people who ask me things about law that affects them. I get people who ask me, would law school be a good thing for me? In which case I always kind of give them the same thing of probably every lawyer's answer, which is it depends. Like, it could actually be a great thing if you know where you want to go with it. If you are like, I think a lot of people I meet in stand-up would probably be very good lawyers, because they do have that malleability to kind of to look at different angles of a joke and try to twist it and reverse it and play both sides of it. And that really is a huge thing in being an attorney. And if you're especially able to shut down the ability to feel, then you could be a great lawyer. That was actually one of the hardest things, was to shut down the ability to feel.
Is that true? Like, I've always heard like comedians are like some of the darkest people, where like on the inside they could be like hilarious, and then behind the scenes you guys are like a little cold. Is that a stereotype that's true, you find?
No, I think a lot of comics are actually very very nice people, but I do think that there is always, like, in order to do stand up, you have to keep hitting your head against the wall for like 10 years and hope it breaks. And like, most people wouldn't do that. Most people would spend their time doing things way more like functional. Like, they would start a podcast, or they would hang out, they would have family, they would go on to do like more like appropriate things. They wouldn't be standing in a bar at 8 o'clock at night on a Monday in Pearl River telling jokes to an Irish guy, heckling them, calling him an idiot while he's standing with the microphone. Like, it's one of those things of, I think a lot of comics I meet, I would say it depends. Like, there's like, again, there's about a good, like, I would say 2/3 of the comics who do it just like want to have fun. Like there's a good chunk of them that just want to have fun. There's some people who are jerks but they're funny jerks, and there's some people who are very dark and that they are dealing with a lot of things. I do think that there's an element of it, like it's probably not the smartest way to do anything, because like I said, you're not getting paid for that time that you like. If you ever like, maybe you make it big eventually, but you really got to do it because you love doing it, that you like getting up on stage and you like that attention for the whole 5 minutes that you're getting it from a bar of people who maybe are too involved in the sports game that you're trying to compete with.
Yeah.
Did you have like the jitters, or were you nervous about like public speaking, or was that something that you were naturally good at, or you acquired that skill?
So it's weird. I think public speaking, I didn't have a problem until I went to law school. And then I had I think I have a little bit of PTSD from one of my classes where it actually did kind of at least affect my legal arguments and things like that, where I actually got to a point where I had panic attacks when I started it got past it eventually. But initially I remember going to make my first motion as an attorney, or argue my first motion as an attorney. And I got like hit with a panic attack, and it struck me back to where I was in law school, where I was but I never had that issue, like generally public speaking. It was only in courtrooms. Like my public speaking outside of law had not been that bad. But I also will say it's changed over time. And now like my style of public speaking's changed. My style of talking to other people has changed, because you'll talk to people, you'll do podcasts, you talk to people after the open mic, and you network. And especially where I am now in the stand-up world compared to where I was 5 years ago, my confidence level's risen. And now I also have people who I try to mentor in who are just starting out, who it's like, back when I started, there wasn't really a lot of good mentorship where I was. So it's nice that there's a lot of people who I get to talk to on a weekly basis who are just starting out 6 months in, 2 years in, 1 year in, whatever they are. And they kind of feel like, oh, there's a guiding presence to kind of getting them into whatever their next step is, who's going to come up to them and say, that's good, pace this a little bit better, but you have some great bits here. So that's actually, I think, one of the things I've enjoyed most recently the last few months. And it comes up every few years, like every year or so. There's always another person who I become friends with, who it's like, yo, like this guy, kind of jumped on, and it kind of made me feel good. And I had a friend who passed away recently. He kind of did the same thing. Like everybody when at his wake was like, this is the guy who came up to me and was like, yo, keep doing it, keep chasing the dream. So that's all it is. It's about chasing a dream.
Well, if you could send out a message today and, get yourself out there. I mean, it seems like you love helping people and you have a passion for that, as, as much as growth in yourself. In our closing, what would you like to put out there to say, hey, this is Walter, and if you,
where can
and
we
just
find you?
Right, and just like what you could help with?
Well, first off, you can find me at BROJO. Death is in the end of life. Punch, like a delicious drink you drink in the summer, on all platforms. That's Brojo Death Punch, and that's on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. If you want to play Xbox Live, you want to play Fortnite with me, I'm on there as Brojo Death Punch as well. Not necessarily good at it because I haven't played it in a while, but that's typically where you could find me on most social media platforms. And my thing is just go out and support some of the local comedy shows in your area. I've helped produce shows in Englewood, New Jersey, at the Black Box Theater, which just moved. I've helped. I'm just trying to, like, at least for me, just keep supporting what you see as far as the local comedy scenes go, whether it's going to an open mic, if you want to get up, because, like, again, you mentioned having a son who's into it. I would say go ahead and have him go to an open mic. And if he can get up there and, like, listen, you might bomb your first time. It doesn't mean you're not a good comic. Because I'll tell you, I've seen people who crush their first time. I've seen people who bomb their first time. People grow doing it. So if you want to do it, if that's what your heart's desiring of you, you just got to get up and do it. And you have to, like, kind of chase that dog until it's out of you, until you've made the decision, like, this just isn't for me. It's not one of the hardest things to chase after, but again, there's a lot of good stuff going on. Especially at Diddy's over in Suffern, and then Uncle Tommy's Tavern over in Pearl River. There's a lot of good comedy stuff going on.
Very cool.
Awesome.
And if we wanted to use you as an attorney, where it was the same thing, we could just chat you through that, or
yeah, you can just chat me through that. You can look up Walter Deptuch and then put lawyer in on Google. I'm on Facebook. It's usually pretty easy to find me there. Because that's been the way that people find me anyway. They usually Google me and then they go. I had somebody who messaged me the other day and it's like, I found you through Google, or I found you through Facebook, and I'm like, Okay. I thought I was gonna get I thought there was like a referral, but okay. So it happens. Like people just kind of stumble upon me at certain points, and that's fine too. But I appreciate you guys having me on. This has been a great, fun time, and thank you.
Thanks so much, Walter. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks.